Welcome to Policy on Demand's Week in Review. I'm Todd Metcalf.
What would you tell clients are your takeaways from this week?
Despite what often appears to be the height of political tribalism, my key takeaway this week is that bipartisanship seems to be breaking out around a few key issues. The first is working families. Working families are having a tough time and need to be attended to. The Ways and Means Committee marked up its budget priorities for the year this week, and the focus was decidedly on working families, farmers, and small business owners struggling in an inflationary economy with a tight labor market. Corporate tax policy was hardly mentioned at all. Continuing the focus on working families, there is bipartisan agreement that future retirees should not see the upside in their retirement savings accounts limited by regulatory pressure on plan managers to consider climate change and ESG factors in the investment decisions that they make. To that end, both the House and Senate this week voted to disapprove a Biden administration rule that encourages those investment considerations. That said, President Biden has vowed to veto the measure, so the fight on this front is not over yet. Finally, there seems to be a strong bipartisan consensus that an unchecked China represents a significant risk to the United States. To be clear, there are certainly differences in the approach that either party might take to address this challenge. For example, Democrats are focused on the home front, advocating more industrial policy through increased investments in technologies of the future, workforce improvements, and fixing weaknesses in our economy, while Republicans seem more focused on how to prevent Chinese incursions into our economy on many levels that some have characterized as an existential struggle against China's ideological, technological, and economic threat. The bottom line, however, is that both parties firmly agree that ignoring China could be a fatal error.
Which question related to policy did you get asked the most, and how did you respond?
The most common question I heard this week is one I expect to hear consistently during this divided Congress. Will they be able to get anything done? Without being overly optimistic about the scope of things Congress might come to agreement on, I do think there are signs, can we call them spring shoots at this point, that there are areas where agreement may eventually emerge. Enhanced benefits for working families, investments in tax incentives that increase U.S. competitiveness against China, like restoring R&D expensing, and more. It doesn't always seem that way, but Congress usually gets around to doing the right thing eventually.
Where should companies focus their attention in the coming week?
This Congress has just finished its second month, so it still barely has its sea legs. Things may seem quiet or stuck, but that is the perfect time for taxpayers to build relationships and lay the groundwork for future policy success. Make your presence known now for the battles ahead.